Even though the latest Pokémon Sun and Moon trailer has already been released, the English version brings with it many more solid details. In addition, the Pokémon website has been updated with profiles of each of the new Pokémon, as well as a few new screenshots. While there are a few tidbits to be found in some of the screenshots, there's not really enough here for a full-blown analysis. But be sure to watch our analysis of the Japanese trailer, as we'll only be covering the new information here. The big update is an explanation of Zygarde and its forms. The website begins with Zygarde cores and cells, which are the building blocks of its other forms. Each one is made by gathering together the cell-like components. However, the cells and cores cannot fight on their own. Cores are the less common of the two, as only a small number exist. This is because they serve as the brain of Zygarde and can act on their own in order to gather cells. Because they have their own will, it is possible for them to sometimes act on their own. Conversely, cells have no wills of their own and act in accordance with the orders of a nearby core. Interestingly, the website claims that Zygarde cells exist all around the Alola region. Could it be possible that the player eventually finds a core and must then track down the Zygarde cells in order to access the other forms in battle? It would certainly be a different way of capturing a legendary Pokémon. When Zygarde achieves its 10% form, it becomes a dragon and ground type just like the 50% form. It can have either the usual Aura Break ability from X and Y, or the new Power Construct ability, which allows it to become Zygarde's 100% form if its HP drops below half. The website states that when an emergency occurs, this form can act separately from its 50% form, which is considered its main body. This is because the 10% form only has a single core performing the functions of its brain and can only maintain this form for a short period of time. Despite this time limit, Zygarde's 10% form can overwhelm opponents with its sharp fangs and a running speed of 60 miles per hour. Zygarde alone can use the move Thousand Arrows, which is a ground type attack. Despite being ground type, it can damage flying types and Pokémon with the Levitate ability. In addition, if either of these kinds of Pokémon are hit by the attack, they will continue to take damage from other ground moves in subsequent turns. In addition, it has the unique move Thousand Waves, which prevents Pokémon from fleeing or swapping out in battle. Then we have Zygarde's final new form when it reaches 100%. It only has the ability Power Construct, though it keeps the same typing. This form is specialized specifically for battle and enables Zygarde to fight at full power in order to fulfill its duty of protecting the Pokémon ecosystem. It has the unique move Gore Enforcer, which can erase the abilities of any opponents that have already used a move on the same turn that Gore Enforcer was used. This form also has Zygarde cores in its wings and tail, which allow them to make decisions and act independently if they so choose. Considering that this much attention is being given to Zygarde and its forms, we wonder if it'll simply be a special side quest, or if it will tie into the story of Sun and Moon in any way. At the very least, we wouldn't be surprised if it's up to the player to find all of Zygarde's cores and cells in order to reach this potential. Moving on to the new Pokémon introduced yesterday, we have Bruxish, the Gnash Teeth Pokémon. It can either have the ability Strong Jaw or the new ability Dazzling, which prevents opponents from using priority moves that normally strike first. As we thought, Bruxish emits a strong psychic power from the growth on its head. If an opponent is covered in this power, they are stricken with migraines so bad that they can fall unconscious. Like a rattlesnake, when Bruxish does this, it gnashes its teeth. The sound serves as a warning to other Pokémon who will leave immediately. Lifeguards in the Alola region take advantage of this by allowing Bruxish to remain near beaches in order to prevent more dangerous water Pokémon from gathering there. Bruxish will bury itself in the sea floor while emitting low-level psychic energy to serve as a radar for when prey is near. As we thought, Cutiefly is based on the Beefly and can have the abilities Honey Gather or Shield Dust. It is able to detect the auras of all living things and search out flowers based on their auras before gathering the nectar and pollen. However, when living creatures are excited, their auras seem to resemble those of flowers in full bloom, which causes Cutiefly to gather near people or Pokémon who are feeling either very happy or sad. So while Cutiefly mainly live in fields and meadows, it's not uncommon for them to be drawn to towns based on the emotions of those living there. Next is Drampa, the Placid Pokémon, and it can have the abilities Sap Sipper or Berserk. Berserk is a brand new ability that increases the Pokemon's special attack by 1 when its HP drops below half. It actually ties in quite closely to Drampa's personality. While normally they tend to live alone on mountains 10,000 feet above sea level, they still need to descend the mountains in order to eat the berries they need to survive. They do this each day at dawn, and while eating, they love communicating with other people and Pokemon, especially children. Drampa will appear at schools and parks to see the children as they are extremely gentle. However, if a child it cares about is hurt in some way, it will go berserk and display the power of its dragon breath. Then we have Togedemaru, the roly-poly Pokemon. It can either have the Iron Barbs or Lightning Rod abilities, both of which are quite fitting. After all, Togedemaru uses the long needle that grows from the back of its head as a lightning rod to attract electricity and store it for later use. Because of this near-constant storage of electricity, its attacks can be quite powerful. It is also able to roll itself up and use the bits of needle-like fur that stand up as a defensive measure. And during lightning storms, it's possible to find Togedemaru gather and bristle their needles as they wait to be struck by lightning. But an extra cool little detail about Togedemaru is how its cheek pouches have divots like a wall plug when using an electric attack. We can just barely see it in this scene. The electric Pokemon continue with Charjabug, the first evolution of Grubbin. Charjabug is known as the battery Pokemon, and, fittingly enough, it has the ability Battery, which allows it to raise the power of an ally's special moves. Charjabug itself stays perfectly still while waiting to evolve, often spending its time with its body half buried in the ground. It can even store enough power to run a household for an entire day, or provide its electricity to other Pokemon, literally serving as a battery. When Charjabug evolves into Vikavolt, the Stag Beetle Pokemon, it gains the ability Levitate. It's shaped like a flying fortress that can speed through a forest, firing beams of electricity from its mouth while using its jaws to control the electricity. Vikavolt is quite acrobatic, able to perform sharp turns and tailspins in the forest, all the while weaving through complicated tangles of branches with no issues. Vikavolt has an interesting relationship with Charjabug, clasping it with its legs to use as an extra battery. Even if a battle goes on for a while, it can use Charjabug to continuously use powerful attacks. And if it becomes involved in a fierce aerial fight, it will drop Charjabug to lighten itself and move faster. It doesn't really seem like the best time for Charjabug though. But before we move on, we wanted to mention how many of you pointed out that we could barely see the level of Vikavolt in the previous trailer. It shows 41, which continues to support the idea that the Grubbin line is slower to evolve than many other early bug types. Finally, we have Tapu Koko, the land spirit Pokemon, and guardian deity of Melemele Island. It has the new ability Electric Surge, which fills the battle arena around the Pokemon's feet with electricity when it appears. This simultaneously raises the power of any electric moves for Pokemon on the ground, so no flying or levitating electric types can take advantage of this, and prevents any Pokemon from falling asleep. Tapu Koko can also use the move Nature's Madness, which reduces the opponent's HP by half. Despite the fact that Tapu Koko is considered a guardian, it is also a fickle Pokemon. It may not even come to your aid if you need help, but despite this attitude, it's also very curious. If Tapu Koko becomes interested in a person or a Pokemon, it may desire to play or battle with them. It's also able to store electricity by enclosing itself within the shells on its arms. The website hints that it may appear in this form during other, more special times as well, though we have no idea when that might be. What we did notice in the new trailer is the fight against Tapu Koko. He is indeed at level 60 when first battled, and seems to be located in some kind of stone temple. Unfortunately, we can't really pinpoint where this might be. Now, while those were all the Pokemon shown in the trailer, the Pokemon website finally gave us details on the 2 new Pokemon that were revealed in Korokoro. First is Komala, the drowsing Pokemon, a normal type who has the ability Comatose. This allows it to stay in a perpetually drowsy state, preventing it from getting any other status conditions. In fact, Komala is so sleepy that no one has ever seen it awake. It eats, travels, and battles while staying asleep. Because of this, Komala's saliva was used as a medicine for the sick or those suffering from insomnia by those in ancient times. It was said that if you take a small amount of the saliva remaining after Komala eats leaves, water that saliva down, and then drink it, you'll have a very restful sleep. Komala also always clings to the log pillow that its parents gave to it. If it somehow does lose hold of the log, it will be unable to sleep well and instead thrash about wildly. However, if it truly trusts a trainer, it will cling to their arm as well. Komala's expression can change as if it's reacting to what's happening around it, but many believe that this is just a coincidence. Any changes in expression are really just a result of the dreams it has. The other new Pokemon is Rockruff, the puppy Pokemon. It's a rock type with the abilities Vital Spirit and Keen Eye. It has an excellent sense of smell, never forgetting an odor once it's been experienced. This has led to stories of Rockruff being separated from their trainers and using the faint trace of their scent to track them down and reunite. Rockruff is also quite sociable, though its disposition gets wilder as it grows. It often greets others by rubbing the rocks around their necks against each other. This is meant to be an expression of fondness, though it'll still hurt if Rockruff does this to its trainer. If it begins to howl when the sun goes down, it will evolve soon after. However, Rockruff will leave its trainer to evolve and only return when fully evolved. The wording of this makes it seem like Rockruff only has one evolution, though we'll have to wait and see for sure. Nonetheless, it is a persistent Pokemon and is sometimes able to outlast its foe despite being weaker to take victory. Before we end this video, new screenshots were released of Sun and Moon showing off a few old scenes as well as several new ones. The first shows a cave or forest of some kind. We can see some kind of object on the left, though we have no idea what it is. There's a small opening in a rock on the right next to the small stream. In the back we can see the exit, but just before that, in the middle of the frame, is a kind of natural bridge across the stream. Is it possible that this is a scene from the forest behind the festival platform in the opening town? Next, we see what's likely our trainer riding on a Stoutland in a canyon. Just behind us is a dead tree that is likely significant in some way, though we don't know how. Looking closely at Stoutland, we can see some kind of collar around its neck, which may extend to its back. After all, we can see the trainer holding on to something while wearing what might be a riding suit. In X and Y, it was possible to ride Skiddos, Go-Goats, and Rhyhorns, but only in specific cases. We suspect that'll be the case as well with Stoutland. Some of the other screenshots show that we can find Pichu in the wild, and Zubats will still be infesting caves. But then we see Psyduck on a coast. Behind it, the ocean is sparkling, and palm trees and mountains can be seen in the distance. The palm trees may even be hiding some kind of cave or ruins from the little that we see. Eventually, the player catches a Pichu, which shows that it's number 24 in one of the Pokédexes. We can't say for sure if it's the Melee Dex, but once again we can see its entire evolutionary line. Meanwhile, two other screenshots show what trading will look like in the new game. It's nothing remarkable, but it does look nice. Finally, the most intriguing picture is of this Litten. It's only level 10 and we can't see a trainer behind it at all. There's no way that this is actually a wild Litten, is there? It could be an early screenshot, but it is incredibly suspicious. Could we really be able to catch starter Pokemon in the wild? Somehow, we doubt it, but we can't think of another explanation for the missing trainer. Pokemon Sun and Moon is slowly taking shape as more Pokemon and lore are introduced, but there's still a ton that we don't know, like the gyms and their leaders, the unnamed islands, and other new features that we haven't been shown yet. We'll keep a sharp eye out for any more information. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to keep up with everything we do. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplained for more on Pokemon and other things gaming.